this is my first. Intended on being on several, but this is my first.
All good, all good. Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Texas right now, just north of Houston. Um, so yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And remind me, I mean, we have a bunch of people joining right now, so I'm not sure. Do you have a SaaS, or are you thinking about starting one? Like, where are you at?
I'm currently building one. I went through a coding boot camp and kind of found like, hey, I really enjoy this stuff. And I'm like, well, why work for somebody else when I can build my own product if I'm kind of doing the same thing? So I'm going through the growth and struggles of building and learning everything else that they don't teach you in a coding boot camp. Also doing a master's through UAT right now in software engineering. So I'm kind of learning as I go and build at the same time.
Okay, cool, cool. And I think I saw you had like a photo studio app.
Yeah, Photo Studio app is the name of it. So I've got a couple other things that I'm working on too, because I need to generate some cash flow coming in to kind of really do some marketing for Photo Studio app as well. So,
Very cool. Okay, okay. So if I understand it, so are you bootstrapping the whole thing?
oh yeah, yeah, completely. I don't want to do venture capital at all. This is just my baby. I want to take it from scratch and see where I can take it and go through all the bumps and hurdles and everything else through the way so I can learn more, and I want to make money and ditch any sort of paying job, like work for a company that I can just through this. So that's my goals.
Okay, cool, cool. And remind me, so you said you took a boot camp. I'd assume you're not doing development before this, or is this kind of your first foray into?
I've done like WordPress website stuff. Hold on one sec. I'm going to plug in my camera because this is driving me nuts.
No worries, no worries. Take your time.
Yeah. So um, I was doing work. I had a photography business that I started when I moved here about 8 years ago. So I started learning through WordPress and building websites, building my own website through that. Had to learn that from scratch, and it took me a while. And then finally, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try this whole engineering thing. I need to make more money, and then like, yeah, I'm going to make my own product because that's just where I want to take it. And I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit anyway. So I'm like, why not make it and launch it, market it, and do all that stuff? So
Definitely, definitely. So I don't know. I mean, typically on these calls, either I go over something. I had a couple of things I just wanted to touch on, just AI related. But then, we can definitely go into sort of a specific. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you really want to touch on, we could do a breakdown of your business.
right now I don't, because I'm still trying to build everything up and program everything. So like want to get the MVP launched here pretty quickly. So that's kind of my focus. Once it's at least I have what I think is a viable MVP, then do some more testing and stuff like that. Then I'll probably have a lot of questions. But right now my head's just in the laptop trying to build everything out.
Okay, okay, got you. Is this something that was like a tool that you developed for a problem you were facing, or what was the sort
Yeah.
of?
So as a photographer, part of my problem was that like if you would do like Facebook marketing or wherever, you'd have so many clients coming through, right? You do so many sessions, and then it's just like, okay, where are they at? Where are they at in the editing? Did I get their album delivered, or did I get their album edited and designed? And then did I deliver their product? It's just like everything else. As a solo dude, you're trying to track everything throughout. I'm like, I don't like this. I want to be able to keep my customers updated. So I want to implement some SMS stuff in there as well. So as it goes through the flow, the customer's also getting a SMS going, "Hello, ding. Um, your stuff's now being edited, or albums being designed, or whatever." That way they're updated too, for more of a better customer service side of things. But now I'm just kind of focused on that, not worried about the photography so much.
I see, I see. And are you full time on this, or is this like you're transitioning?
Um, so I was doing training and development at a forging company over here, but they were operating in the red for years. So I got let go along with like 5% of the company, and now I'm just doing it full time. So
Okay, got you, got you. And just how long have you been at it, like developing? I mean, sometimes these projects can really take a
um
while.
so it actually started a while ago, but it's just been like part of it, like I decided I was going to make it when I was in the coding boot camp, right? And then it's just been kind of like I got to work on this project, and then get back to it a little bit. So it's really been kind of drug out because I haven't been able to focus on it as much as I'd like to. Um, kind of hit and miss. It's been in the works for a while, I guess.
Okay. And did you do any thoughts about sort of like marketing or the way that you're gonna go to market with it?
So I've already been so there's this main photography conference called Shutterfest up in St. Louis, and I've been there for the last 2 years, actually. The first one was just hey, here's my thoughts, concepts. What are you guys thinking about it? So I've already hit photographers in there. The main guy that runs it, his name's Sal Sankata. I'm in contact with him and his wife, and I've been talking with them, and they may be able to do some promoting with it. Granted, once I get it up, I show them, and then I want to get their feedback as well. Is it good? Is it bad? What do you want? Sort of thing. As long as I can get it to where they want it and they can promote it, then that's kind of my main marketing. Plus, I'm also going to do a little bit of video here and there, and your typical content marketing, I think, is what I'm going to do with it. But that's just what I'm thinking in the back of my mind versus what is really going to happen with it. So yeah.
Cool, cool. And have you gotten, apart from them, like some interest, or you said you talked to photographers. Have you like gotten their emails or contacts for around this stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah, just a general, hey, stay up to date sort of thing, and I'll keep you informed whenever we launch. So I got a few emails there, and I've been pinging out to multiple photographers because I've been doing photography for about 8 years. I've been in like the PPA. We do courses and stuff. We teach each other, so I've got a lot of feedback from other photographers on what they would want as well. So yeah,
That's awesome. Okay, so you're like really well connected in the photography space. So
I could be better connected, but I have a few people here and there that can help out. So
yeah, cool, cool, cool. No, I like that. I think I took like one or two notes here, but I think the main thing around this is kind of going to be like you're full time on this, so I'm imagining that as soon as it launches, like you're looking to get some revenue in as soon as you can.
but yeah,
But
that's why I want to get the MVP up and running fast,
yeah,
because revenue is going to be a big one for me. And I know you mentioned AI earlier, but I was actually in my master's class working on some AI stuff. So if you can see that QR code right there, I was
oh yeah,
actually doing some open CV stuff, um, to make kind of like go through the camera. And then the whole point was like to have sizing functions so people could say, hey, I want this size photo
mhm.
on a wall, or this size on a wall, sort of thing with the camera. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I was playing with it. So
That's cool. That's cool. Is that your master's in AI, or is it just in
it's
general?
just software engineering, but it was an AI course.
Mhm.
I never thought I'd really be able to do AI because I always thought it was like for fucking like super smart people and like having to, you know, masters and majors in math. And then I took that AI course going, oh, I could do this.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I want to play with it some more, but I'm trying to get this done too. So
No, that's so cool. I mean, AI, like, it depends what level you are because a lot of the stuff goes like right over my head as well. I study computer science, but like some of the stuff within AI is like super mathy and very heady. But I
yeah.
think a lot of people, like, you can wrap your head around it, and a lot of the problem solving right now is like there's so much money to be made within the
Yeah.
application layer of it. Like you don't
Hmm.
need to make the LLM, right? You don't have to be the model. You can just like
Right.
use it and find a great use case.
Hmm.
Um, just the
Well,
interesting
that's
part.
like making another SaaS product, right? Like, okay, I want to do that. Maybe I could charge like $5 a month upgrade fee for something like to do that with the wall, like, or whatever it would be. Make a little chat bot, whatever. So there's loads of options out there.
Yeah. 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 And is this your first business, like sort of software business that you've started in this space?
Yeah. In this space, yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah. So what I wanted to show you guys, and I think it comes up really quick. Okay, so basically, I was listening to a podcast this week that was pretty interesting on AI, and so there were like three main. There's a few things that are kind of being put out there in terms of vertical SaaSes. So there's a lot of companies like this one or this UiPath. So has anyone heard of this one? Okay, so it's a artificial intelligence like kind of data analysis platform that now they've totally rebranded to be AI friendly, but I think it's after their stock dropped like quite a bit. because they got hit pretty hard, not being very AI centric before. So you can see they like put that everywhere. But it's basically business automation, kind of like Zapier, from my understanding. And this company just this is an example of companies that are kind of getting replaced. Like their functionality is just getting destroyed because of AI solutions that are coming in, right? So they just find they look through data, figure out sort of inefficiencies, create automations around that, and then sort of this is kind of new now. They're operating with AI and sort of automation. I think it's kind of the same thing actually. So what I wanted to go through is kind of a few things. Where is this? Yeah, here. So there are a couple of things that AI is really good at now. So, in the future, everyone's talking about like AGI, the AI is going to replace everything. We're not there yet. And so a lot of the money that's going to be made is not by people that are like, I'm just going to wait it out until AGI and get my paycheck from a universal basic income. Like I think Sam Altman is kind of like, hitting it a little too hard there. He's like too into it. Um, that's just me. So I'm more into what can we do in the short to mid term around creating solutions with AI, because we've got people right now in our program that are already past like 40K a month, 50K a month with just an AI solution. And it's not crazy complicated. Like it's really not. So some of the things that are really popping up in the workforce around are like productivity based things. So productivity is something that every organization is looking to basically scale. Now, when we look at what are people willing to pay, let's take a step back here before I kind of jump into this. Like, there are two basic things that SaaS companies that companies in general will pay for. And the reason I'm talking about companies like B2B side is because I don't really think the way of scaling like a B2C application is really feasible. If that's like unclear why B2C or why charging like $5 or $10 a month is just an incredibly difficult business model, I can go into that. But is that something? I mean, Kirk, you mentioned like, hey, charging like $5 or $10 a month. Is this something that we should talk about, or should I just kind of? I'm not sure
No,
where
that
you're.
was just an idea that I had. Like, I'm more about a product solution. Uh, I've got several ideas of stuff that I want to make. Like I told you, I'd worked at a forging company, right? Like
Yep.
IoT with sensors on pumps just the amount of information and companies that are out there that don't have a proper database and stuff like that, that AI can come in and help is just amazing. So I would just go B2B stuff.
Yeah, okay. Because we've got a handful of people that come in with like an iOS app and it's like, oof, they're charging like $2 a month and they're like, yeah, we're going for 10K. I don't know a single iOS developer that's more than like 3K a month. Like I've never seen. And I jumped on a call like literally 2 days ago. I called the guy and I was like, oh, yeah, I saw you're running a community helping iOS developers get to 10K a month. I was like, tell me about your results. Tell me about it. And he's like, yeah, we've got no one there, including myself. I was like, well, it's a very strange community where nobody has actually done the thing you're selling. So let's keep in the B2B realm. So in terms of B2B, there's basically two things that we're noticing that are the way that I see it is mental models. So basically, you can either have a money related solution or you can have an efficiency, right? So these are kind of the two main categories. I kind of wrote this out. Give me one sec over here. Um, okay, so in terms of value creation, so what is value? When I thought about value starting out, I was like, okay, everyone's like, hey, give value, give value. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, is it free ebooks? Is it a swipe file? Is it a checklist? Like, what is free value? Is it a lead magnet? Like, what is this? Is it an audit? These things are true. They are value. They can be valuable, but we need to understand like the unit case of value at the core concept, right? So there's efficiency and there's money, as I wrote. Now, efficiency can come in a few different ways. There's time saving, so repetitive tasks, things like Zapier, reports, streamlining processes, right? So you were just talking about in the Forge, like looking at data collection around like mechanical parts. Clearly, instead of someone like writing this down or having it in some database where they're not able to pull it up, if we can have a computer figure out the optimum, then we can just go ahead and use that and be more efficient, right? We won't waste time and energy. Now, another one here is compliance and security. Companies typically, and this is a fascinating one, even during this AI squeeze, when companies are laying off thousands of people because they're like, oh, cool, we don't need customer support anymore. What they're not cutting is their security budget, right? So large enterprises do not want to cut that. So typically, if you're creating some sort of a compliance or security helper, that can be something where you're pretty much guaranteed to have a market, a pretty good TAM, and people that can pay. Um, Apart from that, we've got collaboration and communication. This is think Slack, email optimization, all that sort of stuff here. Better communication within an organization. I think this also goes for your tool right now, Kirk, which would be more along the lines of like, let's improve customer communication, let's improve customer service, which would just make people a bit more happy along the process and increase clarity. Apart from that, we've got expertise and best practices, so access to information. Now, part of my new thesis around AI is that we're going to get to a point where a lot of the tools and things that are coming out in the short to midterm is actually based around like it's all predicated on having a really high quality data source. Now, there are certain companies that are going to have an inherent advantage within that. Now, what are those companies? Like a company that has historical data in a database and it's like numerical values, great, super easy to just put into AI and figure out optimums. Harder harder problems are going to be things like sales processes. Like I think a lot of sales and marketing people came into this and they're like, hey, guess what? I want to make an AI sales closer, right? This is going to be awesome. In reality, if you've ever gotten a call from an AI, caller, it's like, oh, hey, you say something, they wait 3 seconds and then they answer you. It's like, it's clearly not a person. So that's not the solution yet, in a few years maybe, but we're looking at what will this actually give us access to? So access to expertise and best practices. I was thinking something like a McKinsey or a consultant, if they have every single file of every company's first situation, what they did to help and the outcome, that's really key. But not a lot of companies have that digitized or in a fashion that's able to consume easily from an AI. Now, the second category is money, right? So you can either save money, so reduce costs, so cut down expenses, eliminating the need for like 7 different tools for communication or lots of these integration tools. You can improve efficiency by reducing the time and resources spent on offering any sort of all-in-one solution. You can do something to increase revenue, right? So this is anything around sales and marketing tools, everything from how do we do ads efficiency, right? There are tools out there that are making millions of dollars just trying to do tracking on ads, right? That's pretty incredible that they've found a very niche solution. Now, apart from that, we have scaling and flexibility. So adaptability within the business, right? So things that can help the business expand, things around hiring processes, right? Like hiring is one of the most inefficient things in a business. I've known this because I've had hundreds of interviews in the last year or two. It's a pain in the neck, right? And there are companies the recruitment agencies that do this and get paid a ton of money to take that off a business owner's hands. So if there's a solution that you can find within this, like pre-screening applications with AI, checking the likelihood that they're going to show up for the call, that they're going to actually be good at that job, that's super high leverage, and companies would pay a ton of money for that because it's such a big pain point. So the other things that we want to keep in mind are when you go about figuring your solution and sort of determining the way in which you deliver value to a company, when you choose one of these as your main source, right? We want to look at a few things. So this is feasibility, right? So how easy is it for you to actually build this? Now, secondly, apart from what's easiest to build, it's how much pain is the company in, right? These are kind of the two things that I would multiply against each other in terms of outcomes. Because if it's super hard to build, but the company's not in a lot of pain, definitely don't do that. If the company's in a ton of pain and it's like medium hard to build, maybe go with that. Of course, we want to go with the easiest to build. Like when I say easy to build, it has one downside. If it's super easy to build, then it lets in um, competitors or incumbents in the space, right? So these are kind of the things that I'd be looking at. So when we go back to here, now what I noticed is that a lot of the AI companies that are doing well and actually making money, getting investments, getting backing, and just crushing it with revenue, AI hiring, right? So this is a productivity improvement, like I said. Customer support, I'm not sure if either of you guys saw, but Klarna recently did a report. They were able to eliminate Klarna, like buy now, pay later. They were able to eliminate a lot of their workforce and increase profits by about 25 million or something like that. Like it was in the millions in one quarter. Their stock just skyrocketed right after doing it. They figured out an internal solution, which is fascinating. Like it's not in their, it's not like they're programming experts. They were just like, look, we figured out a tool to help us. Now, the way they deal with that could be interesting. Like if they open source that, that's awesome because it's not actually their core business model, right? But there are other companies right now working as hard as they can around the clock to build out customer support bots. Like everyone is trying to do that because they know it's a waste of time to have like 6 people on the phone all the time, 24/7 to help out with the software. Now, another one that's super easy to implement is invoices. Like invoices, data processing, this stuff just it takes time right now, and a lot of people just outsource this to like click labor, and like the Philippines VAs and that sort of stuff, like or software automations. If you do this with AI, it's pretty reliable and you can kind of get that done. And finally, data analysis. Like these are the four areas which are not too hard to build with current version of AI. And this is sort of the short term. So this is like short term slash now. Okay. Now the next part of this would be sort of midterm. This is where it's like we have to kind of look into the future a little bit, look into the crystal ball, and sort of understand, where we're going from here. So, as my prediction around this is, there are a couple of key functions that we need in order to grow. So, here are the things, the questions that come up. So, AI enables automation, right? AI enables us to go from point A to point B with fewer human interactions, typically around data intake, around efficiency, and around saving money, save cost, right? So the questions to ask are, what is the cost currently of the work that is being done, of the work that is being automated, right? So if it's a low cost item, like if it's just someone that has to pay employees and figure out like sort invoices, send invoices out and stuff like that, maybe that's a $10 an hour task that's being automated and they do that like 10 hours a month, right? Not a huge deal, right? But if this is around hiring flows, posting jobs, screening applicants, screening sales calls that are coming in. Those are pretty high leverage things, right? Because people in your company for high leverage tasks, maybe you don't need to have the CEO hop on the first interview of five, right? Maybe you can do that with an AI bot, right? I know companies have come to me before and they're like, this is our solution. Pretty interesting. Um, then finally, it's the volume or frequency of the automated work. How often is this stuff happening? Is this like a once a month thing, or is it once a quarter, or once a year? How often are we doing this? Right? Think about the majority of these like large corporations that are doing well. They literally fly out. I have a family member who's running a pretty big company right now, and they fly everyone on the team and the core business team out to their office for like 5 or 10 days and they just go through the year's reports. They're like, what's going on, or a quarterly meeting. They're like, what are we doing? What are we planning for next year? And they just sit down for a few days together in a room and just do like 8 hour days, really crush it. And it's like, all right, well, they're sorting through a ton of automation, a ton of data there. If they were able to automate that, if they were able to pre prepare like a report or something like that to give them that data on key metrics, it's pretty powerful stuff. That's what you're paying consultants hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do, and then they give you sort of an outside perspective, right? So in a way, AI is also kind of eating away at like consultancy costs. So this is more about like raw. How would you put this? This is like um, simple tasks because AI is not. It's not to the point where it's like absolutely fantastic yet. Like there's some good use cases. So midterm-ish, and I also don't know, right? Like we're speculating here a bit, but I think around the midterm for AI, we're kind of looking into there's going to be a couple of business models that's brought up. Now, this is the one that I particularly am interested in, which is like data, not data management, but it's like, how do I explain this? Essentially, it's data gathering and prepping for AI. So a lot of companies just have a lot of data, but it's not really ready yet, or it's not really implemented into a system in a usable form, right? So a lot of companies are just like, every CEO in the country right now is probably sitting around getting asked like, how are we implementing AI? Like it's just the hot topic now. But the question is, yeah, you can implement it and solve like small problems here. I mean, these are not like the biggest problems in your company, right? Sure, SaaS companies have a ton of customer support people. You can limit the team. But when you're looking at large long-term actions here, you know, we have to look at leverage for other things, right? So mid to long term, companies do a few things, right? They have CapEx, they have a lot of money that they put into research, like product research. And this is interesting because this is like where material science, you're not like pouring metals together and stuff anymore. You can run huge simulations and you can be like, what is the optimum here? And that's where AI is like amazing. You have gene editing. We have tools now that are editing plants so that a potato can survive with less water in terrible conditions and like extremely, in hot weather. That's fascinating, right? AI has figured out what is the optimum, how can we breed plants to inherit the right mRNA? It's like that's mind blowing. Okay. So product research looking for the future. So this gives you, why do companies care about this and why would they pay a ton? It's because of their moat. This helps them increase their moat out like not just months, but years without having to hire the most expensive AI engineers in the country. They can just run a couple of, simulations and stuff. So I think data gathering, product research are super important. Now, the other thing, what else gives companies a huge edge? Well, M&A. I don't know how this would tie into AI yet. I'm not quite sure about this because there are a couple of things happening more broad strokes in the market that are causing a lot of issues in M&A. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but like Figma was trying to get acquired. Um, I think what was the company? It was either Microsoft or Adobe, or some one of these companies was trying to buy Figma. Um, Figma M and A. I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'll just search it really quick. Adobe. Okay. Why did it fail? It was because regulatory approvals from the European Commission and UK competition markets were proved elusive because of antitrust laws. So it's kind of hard right now to do huge M&A, and it's not because of AI. It's literally just because companies are like, oh, you're becoming too big. You're becoming more monopolized, like a monopoly on the market. So I think M&A is going to be really interesting because it will help, like indirectly, data analysis could help you identify what would be a key competitor to work with in the future to help you. If you figured out like a great product, you would figure out what's a company in a parallel market or something. How could you expand into new markets? Um, and this is kind of my one that I'm really excited about. I'm reading a book right now called The Firm. It's really fascinating book about how McKinsey was started. And I'm like, as a company, it's kind of interesting because they're doing multiple billions every single year, and you're like, what do they deliver? Well, they deliver like a little report, and you're kind of like, that's fascinating. Like, how can you charge that? And you look into it in their history, and there's a lot of really great lessons to learn. But what I'm seeing is that at every level in a company, even as a starting entrepreneur, like level 1 to like a level 10, um, doing, having multiple hundreds of millions in revenue, you're kind of like, you need help and the next step along the way. You need consultancy. You need to talk to people who've been in your shoes. Like at a certain point when your company is doing, when you've taken a company from 0 to 1 million, like that's an amazing feat. But once you're there, the same people that got your company to 10, 15 million ARR are not the people that are going to get you to 100 or 500 million or even, a billion ARR. That's a very different team, because the people that have done that, the people that can scale you in that new phase to 100 million, very different mindset, right? So just as you will change over time as an entrepreneur, just to get your first $100 a month, $10,000 a month, that mindset and sort of the people that you need are going to change. So I think AI is going to come in the form of consultancy. And this is interesting because what AI has that not like that a firm or something really wouldn't have is that AI can look at historical examples at scale. It can run things on history. It's like, imagine doing stocks and investments, but instead of just like a lot of guys like penciling in a line and being like, yeah, I think this is the way. It's like, no, we ran it against 500,000 other decisions that were similar to this with X market conditions, and we can make a certain relative certainty um, outcome here. So I think these are sort of the midterm things. Obviously, long term, I don't think it's really a good use of our time to be like, oh, AGI, and we can solve all of our problems and cure cancer. Like, let's not focus on that. But these are kind of the ways that I see AI. I'm curious if you all have any other thoughts on like use cases, or if I'm totally off the spot here, but I'm speculating on midterm, because I think right now the money is going to be made in this kind of crossover phase.
Well, I think unless we're operating with like the significant size team, we need to focus in on these anyway for short and midterm, not anything that's long term, because it's going to change and we don't have the manpower to be able to do it. So just be doing stuff by ourselves or with a small team that needs to be focused on this, and really need to think about speed to market to get it out there faster.
True, true. Okay, that's actually a really good concept. Is like, how do you win? Okay, now that we're talking about this, like, how do you win in this market right now? You said a really interesting thing, Kirk, which is speed to market, right? So let's just throw that over here. Speed to market. So obviously, speed to market is important. Quality is there, right? Like there's so many companies that were just like, yo, we're an SEO company. We write 500 blogs for you with AI, and like it's awesome. But quality is like absolute trash. And then when you search on Google, you get like a billion results that make no sense until Google kind of cracked down on that. So speed to market, quality. The other thing is that I saw a really interesting stat recently, which is the number of employees it takes to take you to, what was it, to take you to a million ARR has gone down. So in the 90s, it was like 11 people. It was like 1999, you need 11 people on your team operating like full time to get to a million ARR. Flash forward to 2024, you need 2 people, like full time, consistently. Like it's just ridiculous. We've just shrunken down to how many people you need. So we can leverage software, we can leverage a lot of other things to get there, right? So these are kind of the two things that are really important. But there's one other thing that's super, super important, right? You need an amazing marketing strategy in order to actually grow this, right? And there's a few ways that marketing comes into this. One is personal brand. Like the people that are actually crushing it in software, if you're just starting out, if you're a new entrepreneur, if you don't have an audience, what do you do? Like, does anyone have an idea? What do you do if you don't have an audience to make money with your software?
Have to
What do
market the hell out of it. If you don't have an audience, you got to spend money to get them.
you exactly, exactly. So you need money for marketing, right? So there's kind of two ways, right? Like you either have no personal brand, in which case it takes time and energy and potentially money to build that up, or you just need a ridiculous number of amount of money to get to that point where you're able to spend. Because the companies that can spend the most to acquire a customer are the ones that win in terms of like most markets. So I'm gonna move this over here. It's kind of like, what do we need? Right. So these are the things that we're seeing work really well. Now, we're not at the point where developers are, I think everyone's like, oh, coding co-pilots, like developers, who needs them anymore? Like these overpaid guys, let's get them out of here. Actually, I thought that way too for a second. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I stopped with my computer science degree. I was like, okay, I can just use AI. But they are actually really necessary. Like super, super important. Developers right now, they just have a change. The developers that are going to crush it are the ones that are very flexible. That are like, all right, cool. I can take AI and I can have like 10 different agents going and I'm the conductor. I'm like, this is what we need to build, and then we're going to check it. And this one's coming in like, okay, this is the database, and then they can kind of connect it. The role of the developer is going to be very different, but you do need the expertise, you do need the understanding in order to actually build this stuff and make it work. So in order to build a company like this, what I've seen, and we have a guy right now working with us, his company is like, all right, he's a CEO. He has a co-founder who is the like CTO and who has like maybe one or two devs below him. The CEO is super good at marketing, so basically this position is marketing and acquisition, right? So when it comes to the ultimate way of building your company, unless you are fantastic at marketing right now, you're kind of either one or two people. You're either like the CTO side or you're on the marketing side. So when you're not both, and it's just like, let's be honest with each other. Like some people are good at marketing. I'm not going to do the CTO side. Like I learned some computer science, but I'm not going to be that guy. If I start a company, like I'm going to shout out for all the devs in the community. I'm going to be asking for favors, like get someone on here. So finding the right partner is super important. Um, and kind of splitting it with them, figuring that out, figuring out that relationship. But this is kind of the interesting thing is that there's not a whole lot that you need at the start, right? When you look at, I did a breakdown of this somewhere else. I think in the paid community. Let me just go into here. This is just super fascinating stuff. Let's go into uh, where is it? Size. Yeah, okay. So the org charts of SaaS companies, this is like pretty recent data on what org charts look like in a SaaS company. So when you raise Series A in the last like 5 or 10 years, you're going to need, this is kind of the breakdown, right? You have salespeople, you have marketing people, you have technology people, surprisingly less than everything else in the company, and then you've got customer support. This is before AI. This is like 2020. Okay, Series B, you went from 50 people to 125 people. Okay, you have 45 people in CRO. You've got 15 in marketing. So like sales and marketing is still massive. Less is of course the technology, and then you've got customer support. Now, let's say you raise a whole lot of money, you're in a Series C, right? Then you have 400 employees, 185 of them are in sales and marketing. Right? These are kind of just general, they're not really up to date in sort of the size. You've got CTO, which is 114 people, and then you've got customer support, which is also pretty big. So what are we seeing now? Like, what's the trend? We're seeing that, okay, if you can squeeze this down, if you can just make customer support, now customer support is like 4 people or like 5 people and a ton of AI agents, like super, super small, right? You still need a ton of technology. Yeah, maybe Copilot's going to help you. Maybe it's going to shrink this down to like, I don't know, 50 people. I kind of doubt it. Like right now, it's still not that efficient. It can probably make you like 20% more efficient, is what I'm seeing from people. All right, so even still, like what is this? It would be like 90 people-ish. Okay. So the new, even if we're super, super efficient, can you really replace salespeople right now with AI? No, I'm not. I'm just gonna go say no. You can maybe get your like SDRs to be more efficient. You can train them with AI, right? But you're not gonna. You need people to do outreach. You need to actually talk to companies. You can't. No one created this. Like someone's gonna do it, but it's not gonna be me. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be. Maybe one of us on this call will do it, but it's a very difficult problem to solve. So what I'm looking at here is we can shrink customer support. That's what we're seeing. We could in the future, like we can theorize about this. Maybe it's going to be shrunken, like the CRO side. But the things that are constant is you're going to need sales and marketing. Like SaaS companies are beautiful because your costs are pretty low. All you have is like sales and marketing, tech, support. Like that is the consist that is what your company consists of. So going back to what we're talking about over here, did I have something else interesting in here? Unscalable things. No, okay, that's not helpful. So when we go back to this, the use cases, this is really what you need. At some point, the CEO is probably going to do marketing, acquisition, selling, right? That you kind of just start out in this tiny stage. You're 2 people. And when you're just your one person doing this, your one-man band, you're probably just doing this. And you might have a VA. That was my first hire and like never looked back. Super, super important. Like a virtual assistant to kind of handle admin tasks and like buy your time back. So super, super important. So as Kirk, as you're starting to do this, I would say, do you have a partner? Do you have someone who would be able to take this over? Like, what does it look like for you right now?
It's just me right now. So I'm gonna have to do one and then flip flop to the other until I can bring somebody on and start generating some revenue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I don't know. For me, it just made such a difference to bring people on and be able to handle it because you'll start to notice like handling the tech side there's so much going on. And when you're like, oh, I got to ship an MVP, and then you've got a customer support request, like I've got someone who's got a company. They have people doing this stuff for them, but even still, they're always coming back to like, I have to always go to the customer. They have to be happy, so I'm always in customer support at like 3 a.m. and like doing all this stuff. So, man, it's you're burning the candle on both ends, on this. But yeah, let's go into it here. I wrote down just 2 notes. So there's sort of the photography process, and we can jump into a little bit about your business, and sort of theorizing this, like sketching it out a bit, because I love to do this. Like as you saw, I probably have like a billion of these sort of company breakdowns in here. Like this is what we do. Um, but yeah, so what were you thinking in terms of like let's talk about the value add. Like what are the value proposition right now, the value proposition that you're currently giving people or that you would be giving people, say you ship the MVP?
Help organize sessions and keep track. So it's kind of like an Asana for photographers. Look at that, like just being able to keep track of everything.
Okay, cool. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. How does Asana price people? Like it's like Jira or ClickUp, right? It's like kind of the same thing.
Um, I did look at that the other day. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, let's check it out.
19 bucks, 10 bucks. Okay.
Yeah, it's like $10 a month or something, $11, and then we got sure. Okay, cool. And then they've got advanced businesses and enterprises. Yeah, let's contact sales. Let's get on a call right now with them. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So for you, and remind me, the person that you know, how what is their connection to your marketing strategy again? It's they could connect you with other photo studios or other like
Yeah.
independent
So his name is Sal, and he's got his own photography thing, but he has kind of built his own audience for everything. So, and he does his own conference once a year called Shutterfest. It has about 1,500 photographers out there.
Mhm.
He's also doing a lot of online YouTube. He's got his own level up program that he has people in. So he just has a lot of people following him. So he and his wife, they do marketing, they do photography, they do a little bit of everything. And they've got people that follow him constantly. So if he says something like, I like this product, it generally sells and it sells a lot. So that's, if I can get in with him and get a solid program built up that he likes and is willing to pitch it, then it'll go from there.
Let's break this down. So the marketing side. So you've obviously been in the photography space. What do photographers pay for? Like what is photo studios pay for? What are they spending on?
Jesus,
Or
it
comparing?
completely depends on the person as far, but normally if it's a piece of gear for photography, they'll spend thousands of dollars. Computer apps, uh, kind of from one of the questionnaires that I sent out there, a majority of people pay about 30. You find about 80% in the 30 to $50 range for like applications and stuff like that.
Mhm. Okay, 30 to 50 bucks. Um, and is this like a one like I don't know so much about the market. Is it usually like one person or is it like, hey, we have four people, we have a team?
Generally it's one person, and it's kind of there are quite a few with multiple photographers, but not that many. Those are kind of onesie twosies.
Okay, okay, so it's like 1 to 2 person. What's like? Do you know about like large photo studios?
um yeah, they may have about 3 photographers, 4 photographers for them, and then usually some editors as well, but they usually will outsource the editing to a different business anyway.
Fascinating. So what do they cover? Like, let's break this down. I want to understand the essence. So it's like the
Mhm.
photographer actually goes out, takes the photos, and then they edit them in the studio.
So if it's a single person, the photographer will one have to do the marketing, Facebook marketing, then they'll get them in, then they'll shoot, they will edit the photos, and then some may or may not do like an in-person sales. So they'll bring them into your studio. That way they can see all the canvases, all the prints, and whatever products that they have and try to sell them. Generally, a successful business will have about a minimum of $1,000 sales with a typical client. But those that are really successful have about $3,000 to $5,000 of sales with a typical client. Um, so
For a shoot.
for one shoot, they'll generally sell like a $299 session, which is just a session, and then they'll sell $1,000 on top of that, plus 1,000, 3,000, 5, whatever.
299 session.
Yep,
That's just like that's the shoot.
that's just the shoot itself.
Okay. Okay. Now, tell me, how do many of these companies like are many? Is it easy to kind of make it big, like make a bunch of money from this? Because it seems like you're leveraging your time. Like,
No,
imagine
it's
you get caught up here in the editing. Like, you
yes.
do so many sessions, like you're just stuck like a billion photos. Like,
Yeah, editing is huge. Um, oh, I'm on a conference call, dude. So, yeah, editing huge. Yeah, 100%. You can't really scale a photography business, which is why I'm moving into this. Because I realized I was limited at what I can do. That's why some of your bigger studios, they will have multiple photographers to shoot and then somebody to sell. Um, so
Wait, multiple photographers. Is it because photographers are simultaneously the photo, like they doctor up the photos and kind of like edit them?
yes, well, if you have multiple photographers, you usually have a studio, I don't know, like 3,000 square foot studio or so. And you can have multiple shooting bays going at the same time.
Hmm.
So you can have a couple different photographers there shooting, and then they may have one or two people to sell besides those other photographers. That way they can keep shooting. So if the camera's not rolling and shooting, they're not making money. So they generally try to keep as many shoots as possible on the books.
Okay, so I wanna just like write that out because that's interesting. So shooting continuously,
Hmm.
and then this means what else they have? Then at the same time they have salespeople, like
Yep.
sales slash marketing
Hmm.
always,
Yes.
basically. So this is kind of like a feedback loop. So as long as they're
Absolutely.
as
You
long as
kill
they're
one of those, the other's dead.
exactly, right? So when this slows down, they're not able to take on as many jobs,
Yep.
like this pipeline. Okay, okay. So it seems to me like let's just say that we want to scale. Like I'm not sure. Okay, if you're saying 1 to 5K per client, how many clients can you handle in a month?
As an individual, you can generally get about 30 sessions in a month if you're really rocking it. You want to have like at a minimum about 3 shoots a week minimum.
Okay, okay. And what's like the average value? Because you said 1 to 5K, but like typically it's probably
Yeah,
maybe
about $1,000 a client is usually the average.
okay 1K up to 5K. Okay, cool. So you're what are they? They're clearing 30 to 40K a month, like, or they're at least like getting 30 to 40K revenue.
If they're, yeah, revenue, if they're solid at it. Yeah.
Okay, 30 to 40K per month. And that means like, man, you're burning it. You're like, you're running ads, right? So you have to be kind of good at ads
Yeah.
too.
Yep. So you got to be spot on with your ads. You got to be ready to go with everything.
Okay, so in within this 30 to 40K a month, running ads yourself.
That's, we're talking minimum. And really to get 30 sessions in a month, you're probably looking about $2,400 minimum ad spend on Facebook, just locally.
2.4K ad spend.
Yep.
Okay, what are the other big costs to you? Like obviously gear, rent.
Um, yeah, gear, but that usually, 5 years, five
Oh,
year,
okay,
and then replacement. Um, let's see, product value. If they're doing their packages right, should be 10% of what their total revenue is. Generally, sometimes if they have larger packages, it can get up to about 30% cost. Um, for what they make. So if I'm selling $1,000, generally I'm trying to stay within 10 to 30% of my cost of goods.
is that for your time and or what is that? What is the cost of goods like in this context?
So usually I try to keep everything about 10%. So if I am, let's see,
Like travel or
yeah.
something?
So if I spend, let's just say $100 on that print right there, I need to charge 1,000 for it, right? Because that
Oh, okay.
includes,
Yeah.
that's just a good rule of thumb for everything for business, insurance, equipment, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, got you. All right. Now, thank you for walking me through all this. I kind of am like the gears are the cogs are turning. So we've got ad spend, we've got cogs on like physical products, actually printing the stuff, getting the customer what they want.
Mhm.
Is there anything else? Like you've got employee, like you've got yourself. So if this is a one person thing, you're paying yourself some
Yeah,
amount.
that's pretty much spot on right there as far as like my overhead, what it would be.
So like what is it called? I'm forgetting the word right now, but basically payments yourself.
Yeah.
Check. Okay, cool. So so you kind of max out. You're kind of
Mhm.
at like 30, what is that? Times 12. So you can get to like 360K a year revenue, but profit is obviously chopped into quite a bit by this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. Now, what I want to figure out is what you just named to me is something super important when you consider your business model, which is, look, if you're going after this market, like in B2B,
Hmm.
and they're spending like $30 or $50, maybe they have like 10 software, maybe they have like 5 softwares. I'm not sure, right? How much more would they pay for a software that's like giving them a little, like giving their customers updates along the way? Like we have to understand like what is the going back to this, like this thing is in the way. What are we saving them? Like we're customer experience probably
Yeah, a
efficiency.
little bit.
Customers where else? What other
I,
category would we be falling into? Does it make them more money?
no, well, yes and no. As long as the SMS portion gets in there to send out reminders for everything as they're going through the flow, that way it could remind them of the session. Because part of the issues that a lot of photographers have is people skipping sessions, they miss, they forget, because a lot of the shooting and the marketing that a lot of photographers will do will be a 50% off session fee, or you know enter to win a session fee if they're just starting out, which they're not going to hit that $3,000 at spend for those. But um, so reminders really to keep people in the door so they're not having skipped or rescheduled sessions there.
How big of a cost is that to the business? Like your software, because that's two things, right? Like if you look at this process, there's like
I I would,
pre-call.
I'm kind of guessing at this one. It really depends on who they have, but at a minimum, if there's not being reminded, I would say I would probably miss about 3 to 5 sessions a week that I would have to reschedule or dump entirely, just because of no shows.
All right. So let's say that's like let's go on average four. Okay, so that puts you at 16 no shows a month
Yeah.
from.
Mhm.
Ooh. And do you have referrals as well?
Yes.
But still, no shows. Okay, hear me out. If we're building this product, sure, you can give them this value add here. Like I, I I also want to go about this and just say another thing is like the way that we price stuff, just easy rule of thumb. There's like a way more in-depth way of doing this, but just for the context of this call, not having a lot of
Hmm.
time to go into it. But I'd say people pay on average like 10% of the value you deliver them. So if you can save them, if you can get them four more people from no shows to actually show up, and it's like 1,000 a person, you could charge them $400 a month, right? Because if
Oh
you're like, look,
shit.
I can feasibly get you $4,000 more if I just figure out your no show problem because I locked it in. Dude, how much money would you pay for that? You'd pay like a whole session if you wanted to. You could give them an arm and a leg, right?
Damn, I
Solve
didn't even think of it like that.
solve this problem because then you can charge a lot of money. But if you're just like, hey, look, I'm gonna give you some updates. Sure, give them updates along the way. That'll make people happier. Like that's customer retention, right? They're like, I've never had this great. So like,
Son of a bitch. Why did I think of this?
so it's like let's solve the problem that will make you a lot of money. All right. I'm gonna slowly wrap up here, but I'll leave like a minute or two. Sharvin, I'm not sure if you had any other thoughts on this. You've been watching the whole time, like you're seeing other things that I'm not seeing. I can be. It's like it's midnight on a Friday night. I might be missing something.
No, this is a banger. You went into some good details,
Okay.
and uh, yeah, it's just better than ever.
Okay. Cool. 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 Kirk, yeah, this is kind of this is what we do. I think as you build, like this is just the general rule of thumb. Like a lot of SaaS guys that I start with are like they're like, all right, I'm building MVP. I have to ship this. I'm gonna ship this code. Like I'm gonna do. But when we get caught up in that, we sometimes lose out on like the strategy before, which is like, okay, will the market pay for this? Like, what's the amount we can pay? So figuring this out is step one, but then we have to figure out like, this is a theory. So I'm not going to say don't go build your whole business based on this tomorrow. Like
Right.
we got to verify it. So we typically build out and kind of have a way of going about that. So we make sure the people want what we built before we build it. So you save like tons of MVP building time. But I mean, there's a little bit more to kind of go into than in like 3 minutes. But I would float this by people because on the other hand, this is fundamentally not a photo problem. Like there are other tools that do this. So I would look and see what's already built because I know for a fact like we've solved our no-show problem. We get like because we do also sort of sales calls, booking and stuff like that. No-shows is killer, man. Like no-shows is insane.
Yeah.
So that's a business model that's worth fixing. But yeah, no, if you can have a photo, here's the thing though, just like a generic sales show rate problem, that's one thing. But if you can go and you're like, look, I know what it's like. I'm a photographer. I know what it's like to have 16 people cancel and lose out on 16K a month, right? Like, what would your revenue like? Even though you can't scale to the moon, even though you're not going to be a millionaire next year, sure, you can go from 360K a month, a year to like maybe 400, 450K, right? If assuming you get them on the show, I'm sure you could bring it
Mhm.
up by like 50% though. But yeah, I'll just leave the. Is there any other? Yeah, I think this is kind of a bit. But do you have any other sort of questions or thoughts here?
No, I don't. Just because now I'm spinning on everything that you just showed me right there and reevaluating everything. Not really everything, but that that just told me exactly what I need to focus on right now. So
Awesome.
yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.